Game 2 is the next one up, and the casters are getting themselves ready right now. And I just want to talk about that next. Dignitas versus Eanix, or Eanix, is it? Eanix.
Eanix.
I'll get
Just
it right.
think
After
Phoenix,
shouting at me from the background, I get it wrong with some of these
Phoenix,
names.
but no P.
Eanix.
So it's just Eanix.
Okay. So Eanix is the new roster. Was called Valance Squadron before. These two teams are tied on points right now going into this, both on 11. And this is the do or die moment. It's Dignitas, which is Trixtank and Qvo, versus Eanix, which is Lawbster, Xaliea, and Funballer as well. So it's the battle of two teams that were together at the same time.
This is really the telling point of who made the right decision when it came to splitting up the crews. And I can't be more excited to see how this match plays out.
Where's your money on? Split? Are we going 2-0 for Eanix, or are we going 2-0 for Dig?
It is so difficult trying to place a 2-0 onto any sort of team, but I won't cop out. I won't pull an F dot.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was expecting that.
I will not cop out and pull an F dot. Personally, I think that I prefer Qvo and Trix.
So Dignitas for the 2-0 for you. I'm going split here, that's for sure, between these two teams. 2-0 for either team guarantees themselves the second spot at the Masters LAN. If a split happens, we could see a three-way tie, depending on how Energy do against Sanguine. We will see a three-way tie if it is a split. But anyway, it's time to move on to F-Dot and Tolly. They're going to bring us this amazing set over in Europe.
Thanks a lot, Graham. Tully, I've been waiting for this one all day. I have been putting together my notes just for Dig versus Eanix, because this is, as the guy said on the desk, this is all about the tie implications. We could be here for a long time today if these guys wind up splitting, and honestly, these are the two that are going to wind up splitting if you look at the EU League.
Honestly, the competition in all of Europe has just stepped up so much here in Season 4 with Variety's new team, now Team Dignitas, Eanix, formerly known as that Valance squad. It's so surprising to me to see all 20 members here between these four teams, between Obey Alliance, these two, and Energy, just doing so well.
So Batz has picked up first here, and I actually want to ask a question about this. Is Sylvanas worth a ban over Batz?
It just depends on how you want to play against it. You can leave both open and grab one or the other depending on what Team Dignitas wanted to do there, but it seemed that Eanix was more comfortable making sure that they got the Fafnir instead, not having the Sylvanas and the Batz as Team Dignitas, but trying to have even more control to balance that out. Going to pick up the Terra.
And the Skadi, who's been very popular as of late, you just can't fight her one-on-one ever. The dog is not only going to attack you and root you theoretically if you get it in the right spot, but it's going to absorb your basic attacks, which is a big deal. However, Ram is the one hunter that's going to be able to deal with that, so I like that pick, and Dignitas pick the Skadi into the Ram. And then Thoth for the mid lane on Eanix.
Ram, obviously, once those Astral Arrows do connect to Caldair, it's going to be considered as two-shot. You're doing the physical damage and the ability damage onto Caldair. It takes away 2 of its hit points, making it a little bit more advantageous for Funballer.
So right now, our halfway mark. Eanix go ahead and ban out the new wall, looking towards Team Dignitas. That's a very curious ban here. Why do you think they're banning that one?
It seems that they want to be very aggressive on the side of Eanix, so they want to take away any sort of safe defensive options. But they did leave the Giannis open, which is another great defensive global ultimate god, but instead, another defensive god minus the global part, going to be the Aphrodite for Zyrhoes.
Aphrodite and Hercules teamed up right here, which is funny because Eanix is the team that banned out the Circuit. I bet you they kind of wish they could play that Circuit now. Looking for some sort of healing reduction, the Sobek comes out, likely to be the solo selection for Xaliea over there in the short lane. He's got some healing reduction on the Sickening Strike, so that's why we're going to see that selection there. Batz, Terra, Skadi, Hercules, Afro. Honestly, not loving this draft. How you feel?
It has a lot of control, but it has to be executed to near perfection on the side of Team Dignitas. Eanix, they have a lot of damage potential here between the Thoth, Ram, and the Thor. Also great setup as well. Thoth's distance with his stun through his little wall curtain, whereas Thor can also set him up with that wall. It's going to make it easier time here on the side of Eanix.
So it's no surprise that we see the Aphrodite selected, as Zyrhoes has loved this character for a long time, and I think that he's been rather successful with it. And, you know, talking about what you said about the necessary level of execution at the ceiling. You have to pull everything off perfectly. That takes a lot of confidence. And if you ask me, Team Dignitas, perhaps the most confident team in the league.
Absolutely. You know, they're doing a great job so far this split, sitting tied with Eanix currently at 11 points. Both of these teams having 3 wins, 2 splits, and only 1 loss. Both of those going to Obey Alliance, making their presence really known in Season 4.
Well, the first ability of the game is going to be missed. Trixtank not able to land the stun. Onto the Rom playing a Funball. Right now, our long lane is going to be our focus. Things a little bit boring across the map, but this long lane looks to be very exciting already. The basics coming in before the lanes even match up. That stun's going to hit. And right away, our Hunter is at half HP, and BigManTingz not too much healthier.
Well, the problem is, though, all the abilities were used on the side of Team Dignitas, so they're not able to have the lane advantage. So now Arkkyl and Trixtank have to concede a little bit of lane pressure. Funballer and BigManTingz have a small opportunity to take away some of these little ogre minions.
This is dangerous for Eanix, however. Team Dignitas can totally collapse on them, and it looks like Terra had the idea, but Arkkyl didn't want to go with Trixtank, so it was quickly called off. Instead, looking to regain this pressure here in the lane, and likely we'll see the same play, but backwards, coming out from Team Dignitas if they're able to clear this lane. But look at the way that Eanix comes in here and prevents Dig from really gaining footing.
The timing of it really worked out well for Eanix because the fact that they didn't commit to either the purple or the red buff. They just wanted level 2 to be able to get back to the lane in time. And had Trixtank and Arkkyl been level 2, they would have been able to clear that wave and have lane pressure back in their favor, but only with 2 abilities, not going to be able to do so, allowing Funballer to make the necessary rotation back.
And I think that's kind of representative of how these 2 duo lanes have been working out for the entirety of this season. I feel like Trixtank and Arkkyl, while no slouches, they're much more individually strong. Trixtank is a great support when he's rotating, and Arkkyl will just kill you, whereas BigManTingz and Funball have created a more cohesive lane unit, I feel.
Oracle's going on the way of Eanix, and this is something that they really need to control on their advantage. They've been doing a good job denying some gold and experience on the side of Team Dignitas, and now stripping away that neutral camp is going to give them a little bit of a bonus added effect.
I always get surprised when you see that long-range teleport to the monkey, but no crit, so no commit. And so that's kind of what you're looking for out of the Hun Bats. If you actually get that passive boost, then you kind of see the Hun Bats stick to the target a little bit more. But if it's just a little wally for 20 damage, all right, look, I'm going back to the lane. No big deal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Hun Batz is definitely one of these gods where you want to min-max using your in-hands in between your abilities because of that passive, and QvoFred has been playing this god at great success, even since the beginning of Season 3.
And that's why, talking about that passive, Hydra's Lament, the itemization is what made Hun Batz this absolute monster. I always talk about in the past about how Hun Batz has traditionally been a control character. Here he's transitioned into more of an assassin because of those items around him. Not only the Hydra's Lament, which is basically just Hun Batz passive, just put those basics in between your abilities, but also items like Heartseeker, cheap itemization that allows him to really start hurting.
Variety doing a great job with QvoFred denying the blue buff of Xaliea. This is very standard for a Warrior versus Guardian matchup for a Guardian to lose their own blue buff, but not anticipating this. Usually a lot of Guardians will elect to go for the Mana Chalice, expecting to lose their blue buff time in and time out, but not wanting to invest into that 300 gold this early on as Xaliea, so he puts himself still in a good spot to not fall too far behind in items.
Well, when it comes down to the Sobek, he doesn't really mind. One, the Mana Chalice, it depends. The solo laners are split on whether or not they like the Mana Chalice. Again, it's 300 gold, and it sells for nothing, so you need to use at least 6 mana potions, which if you're getting one of those blue buffs, you're probably not going to use those 6 until late. And then plus the passive, or excuse me, the ultimate that Sobek has lurking in the waters. Listen, if he was an Aphrodite over the solo lane, I think he'd be a little bit more upset, but being Sobek, I think he's all right there.
You definitely do have those 2 options available to you, but at the same time, we could see Variety take advantage of Xaliea whenever that lurking in the water is not available, because not only does it give you back mana, it does a lot of damage, and it also has a little bit of a slowing field around you, so it makes it more difficult for members to really get away from you or to catch up to you.
And also the flip side of that conversation is the fact that Variety's just going to have that blue buff available to him longer, just now picking up the blue right here. So he's staggering, he takes the opponent's buff, and then waits about a minute or 30 seconds before he hits his own. So he's going to permanently have this blue buff almost. And for Hercules, I mean, that's talking about how Sobek doesn't need it. Hercules' dream is to have this perma blue buff.
Variety coming back into the lane with the Warrior Tabby, not on the mark with the pull. The ultimate is available for Variety, whereas Xaliea doesn't have it. Has to respect the potential damage output between that driving strike and the boulder. Just clearing out the wave here is not a bad idea for Variety, considering that both of these teleports are down, and Xaliea cannot clear the wave with only one ability here.
There's the Batz ultimate coming out right on top of Cherryo, but it doesn't do that much damage. Thor just totally fine. Doesn't even look like he got ulted right there.
No problem at all. Cherryo able to disengage with that hammer. Purification beads wasn't even used. Ultimate not even expended.
And that's one of the issues right there. I wouldn't say real issues, but that's one of the caveats per se about Batz, is that since that passive is based on critical strike, it's luck of the draw. If Cherryo gets lucky, or excuse me, if QvoFred gets lucky right there, that is basic, crit. No luck there. Luck for Variety. The wall out, Cherryo gonna miss. He's able just to mitigate his wounds and pretty much walk away, no problem. Terra ultimate popped, but no.
Variety, hello? Variety? I thought he was about to get soloed by the archers. The mitigate wounds doing a great job keeping him topped off. Variety is a very bold, interesting person. He was able to driving strike Xaliea north of his tower instead of retreating under the safety, not really respecting the gank potential out of Cherryo at all.
Well, in that position, one, you're looking for the stop. You want to make sure that Cherryo can't continue hitting his abilities of Berserker's Barrage, most notably. So you push him away and intercept and just interrupt that, and then walk backwards. I think that's what Variety was looking for. Almost died of the archers, like you said, but he's got to heal. He's got to heal, and he's got to heal.
It wouldn't be the first time around that an SPL player did die to minions. There were a few cases earlier on in Season 3 specifically come to mind. Even in the LAN, I believe it was. We're not going to mention that player's name here on the cast. But yeah, it definitely does happen. Sometimes it's out of your control. Sometimes you underestimate specific damage because of the heal from Variety. Yeah. And it's only, back then, he was just level 7. So that was only a level 1 heal.
That's
so it's
true.
not the strongest in the world. Have to be very careful that you take archer damage before you get your physical defenses truly online.
Slight miscalculation really might hurt here in the solo lane, and also might help, or at least, hurt in the big picture. Team Dignitas and Eanix right now, both of them have had very successful seasons. Don't forget, this was once kind of one team split into two different directions. So both of them have been successful. There really is no Trixtank calling Lawbster in the middle of the night saying, haha, we're better than you, you made the wrong choice. Both of them have something to hang their hat on, and this is what it comes down to. Both of these teams, if we see the split here, we got a tiebreaker. Both of these teams want to find the win and find themselves at LAN so that they can call their buddy after a night and say, hey, look, we made the right decision.
Do you think all 4 of these members are calling Lawbster at the end of the game?
Yes.
Daddy Lawbster's like, whether or not they win, like the winners will call them and you're like, we won, and then the losers would be like, Lawbster, man, we lost.
You know what? If it was any other unit, I would probably say no. But these guys here, specifically talking about Qvo and Trixtank on the left, and then Xaliea, Lob, and Funballer on the right, those guys played together for so long, and they really, watching them interact at LAN and everything, these guys are still friends. These guys are a long-lasting tradition of Smite. They still have their fun. They absolutely still have their fun, and in that, it makes these matches that much more fun to watch.
Especially considering how long they've played together for, probably about 2 to 2.5 years on several different organizations. Now trying to contest these oracles, though, as both teams. Dignitas looks like they're able, no, oh yeah, they do. Not gonna be able to steal that one away with the hammer.
Arkkyl able to get that basic in between the hammer weave, but yeah, I mean the core of what Orbit used to be, Lawbster, Qvo, and Trixtank, those guys played together since before the launch tournament. I mean, we all know Paradigm. The logo of Paradigm was a throwback to Amaranthine, the team that those 3 guys created in 2012. It's 2017 right now. Think about that for a moment. They're absolutely still having fun, now making their departure. Similar across the way, we see sometimes where these long-term partnerships just reach their end. Frostiak moving away from Shadow Nightmare over there on Lion Guard. Those two also played together for a number of years. So we're seeing teams and players really realize that, you know, it might not be individuals that cause issues or whatnot, and the results might not even be too terrible, but sometimes you just need a different look. You need a different view to change your results.
It's all about the team dynamic, so whatever works at the end of the day, you have to experiment with different options, whether it's players, whether it's roles necessarily, whether it's different god pools in specific roles, what you want to do, how you want to start the game with different invades, which we saw so many different options in the beginning of Season 4, where teams were invading, even proxy farming between Tier 1, Tier 2, even between Tier 2 and the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, Season 4 has definitely been the height of creativity for teams, and that's why we're seeing teams like Eager over in North America, and over here in Europe, we're seeing Obey really, really flourish because of the intelligence and the cerebral approach that these teams take to the game. You look at Ataraxia and Emilzy, that's one of the brainiest lanes, and I say that with the most respect. They're plotting everything out. They understand their strategies, and those teams are really making themselves well known. Trixtank wrapping around the back, looking for a flank here, Toli, but it looks like they were disrupted just a little bit.
No, not able to find anything in the mid lane quite yet. Both of these teams trying to look for the right opportunity, but with Zyrhoes playing the Aphrodite here, the sustain is just too much. The poke is not really going to amount to much in the long term. And going back to the dueling that you were talking about before with the identity that Emilzy brings for his teams, other teams as well have their own identity where the supports will just start roaming non-stop. You look at Eager specifically, that man is left alone for the most part in a 1v2 spot. When's the last time that that's happened when he doesn't want to get the plays necessarily in the early game?
Well, it's all about that adaptation and the change that we spoke about, not just with Season 4, but Smite in general. Very different worlds. It used to just be, hey, man, I push my buttons better than you. But I think a lot of players have really caught up. The outliers are just that. You're either just a little bit worse or just a little bit better than the rest of the pack. But the majority of these players are around the same skill level. And so it really becomes about the team, the unit, and the overall approach to the game rather than just me push buttons.
Honestly, at this point, it's like, who ate their Wheaties in the beginning of the morning? Who started off their day right, you know? Did they have their breakfast? Did they get their morning stretches in? What happened for these teams?
Right now, Fear No Evil going to come out. Excellent read by Cherryo.
The meditation.
BigManTingz with the BigManTingz right there, helping out his jungler.
Great meditation from BigManTingz, keeping his jungler alive, but without the ultimate from Anvil of Dawn, it's going to allow Dignitas to flirt with this Golfear for a little bit. Trixtank zoning out, making the rotation is Variety and Zyrhoes on the top side.
With Variety coming through, that's going to have to be the retreat. Trixtank, 25%, still dashing forward. Lower than that, here comes Xaliea. Ram helping, looking for the kills, and Trixtank falls down for first blood. BigManTingz continuing what he already started with a fantastic play earlier. That's just going to be one kill. Eanix now on the aggro. BigManTingz tries to get the stun. Can't happen, and he'll trade his life to QvoFred. Aggro play coming out of the support doesn't pay off.
1-for-1 on both supports. A lot was invested onto Trixtank to start things off, and easily able to capitalize was Team Dignitas without all these important cooldowns, not to mention the fact that Cherryo, once he wasn't in that team fight originally, as he did have to back, so now Golfear being started yet again. Variety zoning out 4 by himself.
1 man versus 4. He falls down, and he is still clapping worth, trading your solo laner out for the Gold Fury. Always, that's what you do.
In the last set earlier on, again, Obey Alliance against Lion Guard Esports, we saw both of these teams get the Gold Fury, but afterwards they would lose 3 members or even 5, but this time only losing 1, favoring Team Dignitas here. Xalia's not going to get too much of an advantage with the respawn timer from a Variety.
Now you can see they boosted up to 1,000 with the kill on the Gold Fury and then lose about 100 gold. That's the trade you want to make, and that trade, that ain't even a trade. QvoFred just says, do you have a hunter? And there is no go fish. He actually takes the hunter. It's going to be 2-2 right now as we're approaching 14 on the clock. Zyrhoes throws what could be the worst mage ability out to try and steal something, and the Portal Demon goes to Eanix.
I mean, you never know what some abilities is capable of stealing of it, honestly. Like, whenever Incon can steal an objective with an Athena passive, I remember even playing with Lassus one time, he stole a Fire Giant with a Loki decoy.
The Loki decoy's got to be miserable because the team attacking, you see the little Loki decoy, and you're like, nah, and then pop. Oof, that one's gotta hurt. Either way, it doesn't work out for our Aphrodite player. Cherryo lands on 1. and Zyrhoes going to be brought down to half HP. Still has the ultimate, so it's really not that too concerning. When you're looking at ganking mid-mages, you're always looking for, all right, we burn the beads, we'll come back a second time. With Afro, she has that shield. It makes it so problematic to gank this character.
Also building defensively is Zyrhoes going for the Dynasty Plate helmet, relying on Trixtank's Monolith to keep him topped off if his doves were on cooldown for whatever reason, as well as the meditation, the protections that Gauntlet of Thebes provides you, and now going for the Rod of Asclepi is going to have more mobility, more health on the side of Zyrhoes, and I can expect Team Dignitas, once this item is completed, just to start grouping up and using this double sustain option to their advantage.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And what's crazy about the Rod of Asclepius is perhaps one of the better items, I think, in the game. It's just so powerful, period, on top of being fantastic for healers specifically. You're looking at a pretty large amount of power, and what is 70 power?
I think
right
it's
there.
75.
It's 70 power plus movement speed plus health. And then you get the bonus onto your healing. It's crazy how strong this item is. In fact, I think a couple of times we've actually seen non-healers pick it up when they have sort of adjunct healing on their team.
Absolutely. You want to be able to help out any sort of healing that you have, not just yourself. We've seen Team Eager actually do this strategy where I think it was Zatman that picked it up on a Chrono specifically whenever Bess was playing Raw at times.
Yeah.
And that really worked out well for him and his team. And now we see it this time on a Aphrodite that's played mid, but at the same time, it's going to also boost out the healing done by Trixtank on that Monolith, on the meditation. It's going to be helping out Team Dignitas in these team fights, just out-sustain their opposition.
Well, outside of the team fights, Team Dignitas already starting off earlier, picking up a nice little tower over there on the left side of the map. Tier 1 going down, and that gives Dig the firm 1,000 gold lead. Eanix certainly still can fight into it, but Dignitas starting their game off now, really looking for what's next. And honestly, with the Gold Fury down totally, it'll probably just be a little bit more of this, looking at their composition. They want to reach that late game. Almost all of these members are not early game. BMT coming from the back, just going to clear out a wave.
Going to stun out QvoFred. A little bit of poke from Lawbster from a distance, but either way, Zyrhoes has the heal available. Arkkyl going to get stunned out with that hammer. Ultimate coming out, but so does the Terra ultimate, making sure that the Hunter from Dignitas gets out into safety.
Cherryo's got to hit that ult. That's what it comes down to is, you know, the Thor player, you got to land that ult. You can get away with not landing the ultimate here and there, but that was one of those situations where you needed that stun off the ult, the stun into the full combo. That's a dead Hunter, but by missing that initiation, unfortunately, Arkkyl gets away.
The problem was the distance of where he started channeling the ultimate. It was just too far away, so wasn't in range of hitting that ultimate. Also, potentially might have walked over that ward right above that Gold Fury that Team Dignitas has. Really well positioned. Normally, a lot of teams will put a ward inside the Gold Fury and inside the Fire Giant to spot these global ultimates between the junglers, whether it's a Thanatos or a Thor, even Ratatasker. But even on the top side is not a bad idea, just to spot out these ultimates, as well as any sort of rotations in between the lanes.
I really like what Dignitas does here with their wards. I've seen this vision play a couple of times by them. Gold Fury positioning by Eanix. You can see the ward right here on the left in front of Arkkyl, and then it's not this tier monster ward, it's the ward to the right, and Arkkyl finishes up the zone that you don't get vision on himself. He clears the wave, and he walks right in that position on that little eyeball every single time. So he has vision into his lane, he has vision out of the mid lane, and then right here where this red ward is by Eanix, that's where Arkkyl stands behind it, so that all spots of that jungle is covered in vision, whether it's by a ward or a player.
And positioning yourself between purple and the red buff from that far away, you could still see particles being thrown at the Gold Fury between in-hands, between abilities as well. So it's a good idea to use your sentry wards to your advantage, making sure the enemy team doesn't have vision of where exactly you're going, and using the vision that you have all the way down that area of the jungle.
Yeah, that's the exact key. That's really what it's about, and it's really cool to see that sort of higher level. That's what I was talking about, where you need these higher level strategies now, because everybody's good. You used to just be able to beat up the lower end team, but you just can't do that anymore.
And as a result, not overcommitting himself positionally to even check for the Gold Fury, he puts the Hunter in a great spot to continue to farm. You know, sitting at level 16 now, going for a very aggressive build, fully finished Transcendence into the Brawler's Beatstick, not having too much lifesteal, but doesn't really need lifesteal whenever you have this much healing from Team Dignitas.
And one of the classic plays we see here is that Hunter's always going to look at the Gold Fury in that position, so you always flank him. But with the two sentries, not going to be an option. Cherryo here trying to wall off Zyrhoes, not going to happen either. Trixtank gets the root. on the support, so nobody's really partying about it. Funball, a little bit unsafe, goes a little bit deeper and finds himself relatively safe. And the Gold Fury will be started here.
It's getting bursted down really quick. Yeah, the crits coming out of QvoFred on this
Cherryo's
Batz.
here, though, and he has ultimate available. Take it to the sky, and before he makes it to the clouds, Gold Fury's down for the count. Looking for the punishment, lands down, gets the stun, but walks right into Variety. Big vision coming out from the solo lane rotation. Half HP is going to be the jungle Thor. And trouble from the top side is Eanix as they control Variety after his strong play. Funball gets the kill. Continuing down, that's going to be it. Eanix playing it safe. So the Gold Fury does go the way of Team Dignitas for the second time this game, which brings them to a nice, almost 3,000 gold lead. But Eanix able to bite back and take down the solo.
5-on-4 for Eanix without Variety for another 30 seconds. They still have the ultimate of BigManTingz and Funballer as they siege down this tier 1 tower. Diving in the backline is Trixtank trying to zone and root members.
Beautiful.
But Cherryo stunning out Trix. He doesn't have any more dashes. And without the ultimate from Zyrhoes or the Terra, they're not going to be able to really get away from that one.
There's a great wall coming out from Cherryo. Not a complete cutoff, but it forced the player to walk in a diagonal, which is, you know, you're not going as the crow flies, so you're slower. Trixtank falls down. Nice control coming out from the jungler on the side of Eanix. They'll also pick up the portal demon right there, and that's coming closer to cutting this lead short. Now just 1,000 gold separating our teams.
This is your traditional European style of game here. You know, 20-minute mark, only 2 to 4. One team gets an objective, another team counteracts by picking off one and then securing 2 more in the form of the tier 1 tower and the portal demon, making sure that that Gold Fury wasn't as valuable as it could have been.
And this is, you know, this is exactly what you'd expect from 2 teams of this caliber. They're so evenly matched. And you're going to get these back and forths. You're going to get this team fight objective, team fight objective, team fight objective type style. And right now we're certainly getting what we signed up for. 21 minutes in, as you said, 6 kills in total, 4 of them going to Eanix here. And virtually a tie game. This team's just separated by under 1,000. I call under 1K a tie.
No, Variety though caught in a really awkward position, but a
Hercules.
great monolith just to scare away Eanix. Doesn't even crash through the monolith to root or get the damage over time. Acts exactly that. Not necessarily knowing what's behind that monolith is very scary for Eanix. So just giving Variety's life back into the form of Team Dignitas, but now everyone from Eanix, they're feeling very confident going for this tier 1 tower on the right.
The monolith works like that lone Giannis portal. You start ganking somebody, you see the Giannis portal in the wall. Oh, hey, is it the whole team or is it just one guy? Right now, QvoFred, he's just one guy, but he's able to control the whole team. Big fear, no evil, but perhaps bigger for Eanix, knowing that that ultimate is down.
Variety, though, he was eating some of the ultimate shots from Funballer, surprisingly enough, but everybody else from Eanix, they want this tower, but at what cost? Diving the backline is Trixtank. Cherryo now going into the sky, but doing a good job of zoning his big man.
That's the first ultimate that I think had an impact right there. Landing on top of Variety coming out from Cherryo, but still not enough. Eanix not as aggressive, gets stunned down. Cherryo has to Aegis, but he's likely going to fall. The kick coming out of Variety and a basic helps it out. That's going to be kill number 1 for the solo lane.
And this is where the healing is going to be so important for Team Dignitas. Despite finding that pick, they were so low. Now having Zyrhoes on a line here, doing about almost 7,000 healing. Not too much on the side of Trixtank quite yet, but this monolith now will be proving to be very useful as the tier 1 from Team Dignitas is going to be aggressed on.
Variety versus the world. And the world does not want to fight with him. Tier 1 for free. 500 gold in the pocket of Team Dignitas. And they'll continue up the lane. This is going to be the bigger play. Eanix need to defend here. It's this is where Team Dignitas can really make or break their game. You get 1,500 for this kill on the tower, then of course the ensuing gold from the team fight. How does Eanix answer? Nice little combat coming out, not letting Team Dignitas find the target.
That was a great tail flip from Xaliea that disrupted the combination of the Blink, Fear No Evil that QvoFred wanted to have in mind. All the relics was not available with the exception of the Aegis from Funballer, and that could have been a great play had that Fear No Evil been positioned a little bit more calculated, but just like that, one ability disrupting the whole flow from Team Dignitas and keeping their tier 2 on the solo alive as Eanix.
Very good defense Smites coming out, and like I said, that play right there was extremely important, totally. It's 1,000 gold lead for Team Dignitas. That winds up being 2,500 just off of the tower. Plus, you're going to get 1,000, let's say, off of the kills from that team fight. Then you're going to hit Fire Giant. That becomes such a domino effect right here on the right side of the map that it's incredible that you can say, Xaliea tail whipped, and that saved that lead.
Pretty much at this point, honestly. It took that one single ability, and just like you mentioned before, these teams are just that evenly matched. It's going to take one ability to either make or break this game. We've seen the Thor dunk earlier on onto the right lane, onto Variety, which didn't amount to much. On the goal fear, though, earlier on, was a great play by the jungler Cherryo because the fact that it baited out Zyrhoes ultimate. So this is something that Cherryo could potentially look for more, making sure that there's not that much resiliency on the side of Team Dignitas.
Lawbster able to snatch one of those oracles away, and that means that nobody goes ahead and grabs the vision. But yeah, the resiliency of Team Dignitas, totally. I love that word choice because it's really what you're looking for, not only out of the team in general. Team Dignitas, Variety's new team, had to be resilient coming through relegations as a brand new squad. They're known for their solo lane, which is perhaps the most resilient position, and they're picking this tanky, thick, long healing type sustain composition, and that's really just hard to fight into here, especially when, you know, Eanix doesn't really have any anti-heal outside of Xalia's natural sickening strike. They have to build into it. You see the Pestilence, you see the Divine Ruin come out, even a Brawler's Beat Stick. Every option available for Eanix to fight into this healing.
And not only that, Team Dignitas, though, outside of their healing, look at the auras that Trixtank is providing for his team. The Gauntlet of Thebes gives you 20 on both physical and magical, and then you're going to have 20 on physical and magical in the form of the Heartward Amulet and the Sovereignty. So providing 40 protections on both is Trixtank.
Very old school mentality that those auras are extremely necessary. You see some of the newer end supports going more for these selfish builds with sometimes even the Urchin, but I know we don't like to talk about that one. I was actually going to ask that question. Usually you see the one-sided aura come out first before the Thebes, but Trix goes right for the Thebes, the balanced approach. Why do we see Thebes come out first?
It was about the health and the HP 5 provided, making sure that he's going to be taking that front line, having that early game health pool is going to keep him alive, because despite not having protections, it's still a good defensive tool to have at your disposal before the penetration comes online anyway. It's not that big of a factor, and this sustain from Dignitas is just non-stop, whether it's the healing or the HP 5.
Cute little sneak from Team Dig, able to pick up the Portal Demon with no investment whatsoever. Xalia's sitting there yelling at his team, hey, these guys are getting the objective, but a nice play coming out from Trix in the mid laner they just prevented Eanix from really shading over there and actually disrupting that. So that gives Dignitas the presence to back by and come right on back into it. Dashing forward is Trixtank. That's why he needs to be a little bit more resilient than the rest of the crew. That's what you were talking about, how the Thebes makes him individually more powerful. When you're playing this Terra, she has to be a little bit more tankier in the early stages than others, because what she wants to do is dash towards you to get her stuff done. Gold Fury goes down to Team Dignitas one more time, and Eanix show up, but a little bit too late. That Gold Fury is going to be one of our most meaningful leads of the game just yet, just shy of a half hour, and Team Dignitas leading by about 4,000, give or take.
This is the first Gold Fury that wasn't contested by Eanix and not responded by finding any pick of their own. So Team Dignitas getting a little bit of a comfortable lead. Like you mentioned, they snuck out that Portal Demon as well. So they're getting a slow and marginal lead here. The question is, how is Eanix going to respond in kind this time around? Now, the Tier 1 tower on the right-hand side for Team Dignitas is very low, but you can't just pressure that out right off the bat without having some sort of advantage, whether it's the form of having a player advantage or in the form of an ultimate or relic advantage. And Team Dignitas didn't really expend anything except the Terra ultimate just to disengage from that Gold Fury.
This is actually a really interesting lesson on how the different sides of the map are, they weigh differently. This tower right here on the right, if that's a duo lane Tier 1 tower, as a team, you count that tower already gone. It's not something you can depend on. It's not something that you need to defend. Whereas here on the right side, because the Fire Giant is here as the game gets later, this side of the map is more important. And so that tower, you don't really count as being gone, despite it being as low.
The stun not on the mark here for Trixtank. A little bit of poke by QvoFred. Variety is looking to do something over the wall. Not the pull. Not going to really reach Xaliea from that far away. Lawbster trying to get some poke in return here, but it's going to get negated yet again. Zyrhoes doing a wonderful job making sure all his members are topped off.
Having the Aphrodite on your team is a wonderful tool to allow your assassin or your carry to really stay relevant, but it could also be a little bit of a tell. When you see that tail, when you see that latch, you're looking for the jungler, and so when it's not there, you got to scratch your head and say, is QvoFred going to flank us? And that's really what you want here, the flanking Hun Bats. But with that Aphrodite, like I said, you're kind of tipping your hand. If he's not linked up to the Hun Bats, who is he really linked up to? The Hunter is going to be the other option, and then you say, well, we're missing the jungler, watch your flank.
QvoFred, though, he doesn't necessarily need to flank with that blink. All he has to make sure is that he's not going to get disrupted this time around. And he didn't go for... Oh, the ultimate from Zyrhoes was just used for no reason. He misclicked.
That can't be good. And you see the immediate disengage coming out from Team Dignitas. Oh, boy. That was a misstep. Not too strong. They're leading by 4K, so they certainly have the advantage in the fight. But with that Aphrodite ultimate down, that's one of their lifelines, Toli.
Yes, that's a huge tool now. Eanix has a small window to take advantage of it. It's a little bit of cooldown in the form of Shoes of Focus here, as well as the starter item. But Eanix getting the tier 1 tower, 500 gold, it's still something at least. You know, it's not that big of a deal at the 30-minute mark, but getting more map control is an important factor, and it exposes the tier 2 here.
There is no, you go for the fire giant, you can't just fall back on your tier 1 tower. Variety's going to use the beads to get out of that little pluck, and Xalia's just skating around. Low is the Sobek. But he's relatively tanky, so he should be fine.
It wasn't the beads, it was actually the Stone of Gaia that was picked up by Variety. Terra's Blessing being used to dive the backline. Xaliea gets deleted. Cherryo's in the sky, trying to zone in the backline. Lawbster taking a lot of damage by Trixtank. The pull not on the mark. This time Variety's ultimate is available, but Final Judgment doing a lot of damage, but the meditation keeping Arkkyl alive.
Eanix waited a little bit too long right there, Toli. We mentioned how the timing was very important. They had the window of Zyrhoes' ultimate being down as soon as the Sobek pluck went in. And like you said, not beads. I did think it was curious that the solo had beads. It's going to be the itemization choice there on Variety. Not only, so that gets negated, but as soon as they engage, Zyrhoes' ult is up again. They wait a little bit too long, and that window that Eanix had, look at this. It's what we saw right before Zyrhoes accidentally ulted, except now it's a 5-on-4. Variety's just going to eat this damage while his team eats the tower. Team Dignitas hits the 70,000 gold mark, and Eanix trailing by 5.
Still not a bad place to be if you're on the side of Eanix. You know, the Fire Giant has not been contested, not being started by Team Dignitas. Nice little route here from Trixtank being able to disengage, but Zyrhoes taking a lot of damage from that double tap. But meanwhile, it was all a little bit of a delayed tactic as Team Dignitas sneaks away yet again another Portal Demon.
Yeah, it's just Variety zoning. That's just what he's doing. You see him flip and stun a support, and you go, oh, that's the wrong target, Variety. And then his team gets the objective. He VELs and backs to base. That's the right target, Variety. Absolutely. Dropping the vision. Variety has been such an important part of, honestly, the league. It's been fun to watch this guy grow. Stun, but a nice interrupt by BigManTingz to prevent Xaliea from really being feasted on.
And this time Xaliea stops the Stone of Gaia by tail flipping him away. Variety not going to have that for another 80 seconds. Could be a potential opening for Eanix to potentially pluck this Hercules, but at the same time, if you pluck a Hercules that's sitting at level 20, he has all 6 items fully completed, also having a upgraded Sunder.
And look at the tankiness of those items. You've got Bulwark of Hope, which isn't really purchased because it's too expensive, but it's so tanky. And then you've got Nimian Line, another really tanky item. I love the build coming out of Variety.
Absolutely, especially with the Spirit's Robe. If he does get displaced by Xaliea, he's going to have that 15% damage mitigation anyway, and that's something that you're really looking forward to, just to bait out your Hercules.
Big rotation coming out from BigManTingz around the backside. Xaliea gets controlled by QvoFred, and down comes Cherryo on the back, all by his lonesome, brought down to about 25% HP. Trixtank still chasing, Variety leading the charge, doesn't get anybody with the flip, but the tier 2 tower goes down, and the job has been done by Team Dignitas. They know better. They won't fight into the enemy team. They'll clean up the jungle, and they'll walk away.
That was a great ultimate from Zyrhoes. I think it actually saved Arkyl's life there. The ultimate from Lawbster, the Final Judgment was used, and pretty sure that absorbed it by Zyrhoes' ultimate. Not having that kill opportunity for Eanix means that they lose their tier 2 tower in the mid lane, and slow and steady, what was about a 3,000 gold lead, 3 to 4 for Team Dignitas, has now been stretched to about 7,000.
Many lessons in this game. Earlier we discussed the relative importance of left lane versus right lane as the game gets later on, and kills. Well, the game is tied if you look at that big number at the top, but the number you should be looking for is the number on the sides of the scoreboard. Team Dignitas up ahead, 7K, like my co-commentator just said, and yet everybody has the same amount of kills. I mean, how is that possible, Anatoly?
Well, looking at the charts here, the healing from Zero, 16.5. You have 3.5 as well from Trixtank, combining for 20,000 on the form of Team Dignitas. QvoFred was thinking about using that ultimate in the backline, but Trixtank controlling the opposition really well, and all the damage that QvoFred did, traded out rather with Cherryo, is going to get negated by Zyrhoes.
Those 4 kills on the side of Eanix aren't as impactful or heavy as the 4 kills on Team Dignitas. It's all about the timing. We saw Eanix get some kills when all the objectives were down. Nothing you can do there. Team Dignitas fight when there's an objective to be had. Fire Giant's here, and it's taken down by Team Dignitas. Now, Eanix trying to fight into their opponent and trying to escape, honestly, but that's different. Funball rolls forward right into the clutches of the enemy, takes to the sky. Looking to line up, misses one. Doesn't even find the third as the second is off the mark as well. Arkkyl down low, big damage out of the mid-mage. Lawbster takes down Arkkyl, and Arkkyl winds up taking down Funball right before he falls. It's a 4-on-4.
Trading Hunter for Hunter, but getting the better end of the deal is Team Dignitas finding the Fire Giant, but they're not done chasing. Variety wants blood. He uses the Driving Strike just to cut distance, but not able to find the pull onto Xaliea. Instead, looking for the mid-mage is Lawbster.
Oh, he's going to get in trouble. Blinked on, hit by the monkey, and then hit by the monkey.
Killing his old mid laner, QvoFred. Definitely very happy about that one as his team is leading the charge here. They're going for this mid Phoenix without 2 members to defend. It's a lot of damage being lost here by Eanix. They don't have Lawbster. They don't have Funballer. They can't even kill anybody from Team Dignitas without those 2 players.
Absolutely not. Those are the 2 carries. Cherryo can do some damage. You can see he's got a lot of power and penetration in the build by way of the 2 maces, but still, certainly not a mid lane mage or a hunter. So the second Phoenix goes down, and it's mid and right, and Team Dig walk away.
Just like that, Team Dignitas, they find a small window of opportunity to get the Fire Giant. They grab it away. Eanix can't respond in kind, and beautiful positioning by Lawbster during that team fight. Behind the speed buff, using the abilities through the wall was a very great tactic, and anytime you have a god that can use those abilities through the wall, it's something you have to exploit, especially when you're a mid-mage or a hunter potentially, just to make sure that the enemy is not finding any return fire on you.
And that's something that Lawbster honestly made a career on. He's played gods like Vulcan, gods like Zeus, gods like Ra historically in his career. These are the 3 that I think people go to when they're talking about Lawbster. Would you come up with a different one? Maybe Nuwa, I think, doesn't really, it's not as iconic as those other 3. And really, he made a name for himself with his superior positioning, finding those snipes through 1, sometimes 2 walls when playing the Ra, dropping the ultimate in the jungle, and then hitting detonate from a zillion miles away on the Zeus. That's what he's known for. And so bringing out the Thoth, absolutely a god to fit in Lawbster's wheelhouse. You know, I'm not too much of a lore guy, but there's a relationship between Thoth and Ra, and they're very similar characters in one way, shape, or form, and it fits perfectly for what Lobby wants to do.
Both of them are indeed the chickens of the Egyptian pantheon, so definitely maybe
aren't they brothers or something?
You might be onto something here, actually, Tom.
Aren't they brothers or something, Thoth and Ra?
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, Thoth is the keeper of the underground.
Okay.
And Ra is not.
So that's your.
Yeah,
he's just
that's
not.
it. That's my analysis right there. That's I'm not touching that one anymore.
Sports, guys. I can hear Tina yelling at me from afar. She's our lore representative. Tina and Fishman really have a handle on the lore here. BigManTingz doesn't have a handle on anything as he misses his hammer toss. Interesting approach. Terra. Trixtank is the one that's going to be taking up the 4-on-1 by himself. Usually you see the jungler, a tankier jungler, walk up there in that mid lane by himself, but instead it's Terra, who's basically a warrior. Let's be real here.
Trying to find more initiations is Team Dignitas, finding the stun onto BigManTingz, and Xaliea getting bounced around the wall. So is BigMan through the side, not finding the Polish variety in the mid lane is Cherryo, looking for the right opportunity to engage with that Anvil of Dawn. But Team Dignitas is so patient here, waiting for that perfect opportunity. But their Fire Giant is fizzling away now.
Yeah, it's very low on the Fire Giant remainder here. In fact, it's going to fall off in just a matter of moments. That's why they need to fight right now. BigManTingz transforms as Cherryo takes to the sky. Still, Eanix has better footing here. Trixtank very low, saved by the support out of the mid lane mage. Xaliea still very low, gonna dash away. Now it's two players playing full defense on the Phoenix, who's full HP. Lawbster tossing out some stuff through the window. Not enough to find a target, though. QvoFred, ultimate down. Not able to make an impact. There's Variety tossing the boulder out. But still, the Phoenix is 25% HP. That's enough. No kills necessary, but Xaliea might go down anyway.
Not available for the stun. Xaliea barely able to avoid the collapsing walls as he plucks away into safety.
Titan's
Indiana Jones style, because of the fact that the mid Phoenix and right side was down earlier on. There was some fire minions inside the Titan room. Eanix, they have their Titan completely exposed. No Phoenixes remain standing. Their Titans at half health. Team Dignitas, they want to wait to get this Phoenix in mid and right before they continue pressuring.
Yeah, the mid Phoenix goes down easy peasy, one basic. Right side should follow the same factor. And then honestly, with an ultimate like Zyrhoes has, I expect Dig to just walk right into the throne room.
Definitely is the case here, as they have a fire minion wave available to them. Unless they want to play very safe and go for the Fire Giant, it is a very important match for them here, Tom. They want to make sure they get at least the first win here to not... The VXC, the global emo GG coming out very confident as Team Dignitas, as they should be, honestly, here.
Oh, absolutely.
They're up 14,000 gold. They have all the Phoenixes exposed on the side of Eanix, and with this Fire Giant to boot, they're looking like they're going to at least secure themselves a first game win to make sure that they're still in contention to get that top 2 in the Masters land.
I think the Team Dignitas right now are very confident in their ability to go ahead and take this win, but at the same time, they're not dumb enough to think that Eanix is just going to lay down and take it. Absolutely. Like I said, with the fact that they have an Aphrodite ultimate, I think they could have walked into the throne room and taken a half HP Titan. But it's still a dice roll. And with that in mind, against any other team, sans maybe Energy, I think we see them push it, but they have a lot of respect for these guys, and they're going to back off.
And there's no rush necessary for Team Dignitas for them to close out the game at that point in time, because the fact that they have the better late game composition anyway, they're not too worried about Eanix in another 5 minutes or so, especially once the rituals come online. We're seeing so many rituals here for Team Dignitas. 3 flickerings, 2 frenzies, even a revealing ritual on the form of Variety. He's able to spot out the positions.
Yeah, you can see Lawbster doing a lot of work, and as the game gets later and later, Lawbster is going to be still continuing to be this heavy damage dealer. That's Eanix's sort of last hope, is going to be Lawbster on the Thoth. Here comes the push from Team Dignitas. Xaliea gets controlled, goes to the ultimate. Cherryo's got one of his own, lands down on his own teammate. Nobody gets stunned. All of a sudden, frenzy means fight. Here comes Team Dignitas up the mid lane. Variety's going to get control of the opposition. Xaliea pushed out thanks to QvoFred. Down goes no one just yet. But Eanix is still on the back foot. Boulder and a couple of basics will take the Titan down. And with only 11 kills, Team Dignitas owning basically half of them, they take the game in dramatic fashion. Down goes Eanix, and up comes Team Dignitas for game number 1.
Game number 1, Team Dignitas. Such a great performance coming out of them.